2024 is starting out with a bang, or a lack thereof. Sam Bankman-Fried's second trial, yes, he actually was scheduled to have a second trial this year in March, has been canceled. There will be no gavel banging in a second Sam Bankman-Fried trial, hence my joke about a lack thereof bang in 2024. Anyway, good way to start the year. This second trial, which was scheduled for March, was going to center on Sam Bankman-Fried's campaign finance law violations, as well as the accusation that he bribed a foreign official. But prosecutors have argued that this second trial is actually unnecessary now, as A, much of the evidence around these charges that were going to be heard in March, a lot of the evidence was actually presented as part of Sam Bankman-Fried's first trial, which happened back in November. We'll talk about that in just a moment. And also, prosecutors said that not having the second trial would be in the public's best interest, as Judge Kaplan is scheduled to sentence Sam Bankman-Fried to whatever his sentence is going to be a little bit later this year, and that having a second trial would actually delay that process. And as part of the sentencing, there will be some amount of restitution and forfeiture, which is where it is said that Sam has to give money back to the FTX estate, ultimately to the FTX customers, et cetera. And that the sooner we can get a judgment, a sentencing on all of that, the better for the public. Judge Kaplan can take into account the evidence that he heard in the first trial around campaign finance violations and the bribing a Chinese official, et cetera, et cetera. He can take in some of the evidence that would have been heard at this second trial anyway in his sentencing. In any case, that is the argument that the prosecution made as to why this second trial was actually unnecessary, and so no second trial will be happening. Not everyone is happy with this decision. Specifically, you have some Republicans who are arguing that this is perhaps even part of a conspiracy or suggestive of the fact that there are powers that be that are protecting Sam in some way. Republican Senator from Tennessee, Tim Burchett, tweeted this, quote, "So we won't know which politicians he bribed or whose campaigns he influenced. That collective sigh of relief you are hearing is from the deep state." I am a little bit skeptical of this argument for a couple reasons. I don't believe that we were going to get some sort of mind-blowing revelation in this second trial about Sam Bankman-Fried bribing U.S. officials. That wasn't even really a part of the charge. I mean, there are these campaign finance violations that we'll, like I said, we'll talk about just briefly here. But the other reason that I don't really think this is a particularly compelling argument is Sam's donations to Democrats were actually very public. There are reasons that there's a lot of conspiratorial thinking around FTX, and some of it I think is warranted, just given the cozy relationship that FTX did seem to have with Gary Gensler of the SEC, and Sam Bankman-Fried was photographed with a lot of Democratic leadership like Maxine Waters and others. And so there was always this sense that FTX got special treatment from the US government and perhaps from Democrats. And Sam really didn't shy away from that narrative. He was very public about his contributions to the Democratic Party and to Democratic leadership. But after FTX imploded and collapsed, and Sam has made public statements saying that he also donated a ton of money and that FTX and Alameda donated a lot of money to Republican candidates. And those were the donations that they were keeping secret because the media, generally speaking, looks much more kindly on folks who are Democrats and give to Democratic causes than they do Republicans. So this was like a PR move to Sam to not be public about his Republican contributions, but to be very public about his Democratic contributions. So if anything, it seems like a trial would probably unearth the way in which he was also very sympathetic to Republicans. So to have a Republican senator trying to tie the cancellation of this trial into some conspiracy theory seems a little bit uninformed about the whole situation to me. I mean, who knows at the end of the day? Like I said, I think there are reasons to be somewhat conspiratorial about the whole FTX thing, but I'm not sure that this trial being canceled is necessarily one of them. Finally, like I said, prosecutors did make the point that the evidence presented in this campaign finance violation trial would be somewhat duplicative to what we heard in the first trial, which makes sense to me. We did hear quite a bit about the campaign finance violations in the first trial. And while the jury wasn't supposed to be convicting Sam on the basis of any of that, the prosecution introduced things about campaign finance violations in order to paint a broader picture about Sam that the jury, I'm sure, did take into consideration when convicting him. And I'm sure that the judge will take into consideration when sentencing him. So, for example, we know that Nishad Singh, who was an employee of FTX, was frequently given large loans, was given money from Alameda that was then used to make contributions in Nishad Singh's name to a variety of political causes. I mean, it was crazy. It got to the point where you had FTX and Alameda and Sam's like political consultants. They had direct access to some of Nishad Singh's bank accounts, and they could just go in and make contributions on Nishad's behalf without Nishad having any idea that it was really even happening. Nishad signed a variety of just absolutely blank checks that were given to these political consultants that they could just then fill in the pay to whoever they wanted. So there was clearly campaign finance, like straw donor, that's called a straw donor, things happening at FTX. There were other straw donor schemes that were being carried out where FTX or Alameda would give money to an organization and then individual employees of that organization would then donate to certain political candidates in exchange for getting a little bonus, for getting money, things like that. Then there were these charges of a Chinese official being bribed by Alameda, FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried, when a bunch of Alameda's money got locked on a Chinese cryptocurrency exchange. And in order to get that money off of the exchange, they bribed a Chinese official. In any case, again, all of that is stuff that came out in varying degrees in this first trial. So it does make sense to me that a second campaign finance violation trial would have been a bit duplicative. I mean, I'm sad because I miss going to court every day and covering this trial, but I think this was probably the right decision. Regardless, I am interested in hearing what you think about it. Please do let me know in the comments or shoot a tweet at me at Carly P. Riley. And if you have been enjoying this content, please consider subscribing to the channel, giving it a like, whatever else. I am going to have a good amount of content coming out this year. I'm figuring out exactly what that cadence is going to look like, what that plan is going to be. I do have another business that I run. So the first couple of months of 2024 here are going to be me figuring out what that balance is going to look like. But I definitely will be putting out more content, perhaps quite a bit more content, just trying to figure it out. So thank you for sticking with me if you have been watching this channel for a little while now. And I cannot wait for a great 2024. I'll see you next time.